Lantern Valley Studios here, July 1st, 2022. Update video for the month.
Yep. 2 packages released today. Behind the scenes of last month.
So many piles of
Lots of videos of us typing words.
Yeah, the majority of the videos are us sitting at the computer, and you get to see our faces as we type things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Riveting.
Yeah, riveting footage of the three of us often reading for long periods, and then I type something, and then we say a couple comments, and then that's about it. And sometimes we go on little tangents. But yeah, we did a same thing we've done the last few months, which is we have a schedule where for 3 days we work on one story, and then 3 days we work on a different story, and just rotate back and forth every week for that. So 4 weeks in a row of just doing that. And what's kind of cool is we have randomized the newest world, World 10, which is another kind of sci-fi-ish story.
Yeah.
And now we have 12.
12 worlds, 12 novels on the go.
Yeah, I'm writing 12 novels at once. And so for the next 6 months, before we randomize anymore in January, it's a matter of restructuring and reorganizing all of these things and making the content, like spamming it, so that we have the story stuff, and then putting it in order, and then outlining it and filling up those details once it is in order, and then eventually turning it into books. We do that 12 times. It won't be done 12 times by January, but yeah.
Yeah. What will likely be done by January is World 9 into a readable format. We talked about bringing, or once it is done, to create illustrations and kind of revisit the Treasure Tale version of it that we were originally planning to do before novels.
Yeah. Which is something we've kind of almost not abandoned entirely, but like abandoned for now.
We have stopped doing it.
We stopped doing it, like just completely. Just okay, let's forget about that completely. Just not even in our mindscape. And then when we were working on things, it was like it's probably time to go bring that back in to some degree, at least a bit, just like squeak it in there.
But there's no real point in doing that with anything until we have a story that is readable.
Yeah. Hence, yeah. Tiny squeak and try and just hammer out as much of these 12 stories. Most of it outlining and synopsising things, like making things in order, so that novels can be made out of them, and it is in novel format instead of Treasure Tale format, so that we can do that. And to make, one of the key things that we've talked about a few times is when we have something we can do with one of these worlds, the whole point of us making these 30 worlds was that if we had some cool idea, it would have a home and we could do it there. And to take our time with it and make these things as good as they can be. Because if there is a thing that comes up that's like, this is really cool, and this is the one place that we could do it, to make sure we do a good job and we put it in there, etc. So, yeah. That's like a bonus too. Hence, we're taking our time with it, and just doing so many things at once is kind of necessary, so that when we come up with something, it has like the right place to go into.
I was also going to say that a plan for these is to finish the outlines, to have a tagline and a blurb, kind of what you would read on the back of the book cover, sort of thing. And then also to then eventually write a few different kinds of chapters for each story. So it's kind of like a short story for each story that would really, it'd be like we were calling it Act 1. So we'd have the first chunk of each book that gives us like an introduction to what the story's like. And then also a later chapter that really gives a taste of what it would be like to show up mid-book.
Yeah.
And
that is like shows really cool things but doesn't spoiler a lot. So
Yeah.
by the time you got back to that chapter from reading from the beginning, it wouldn't be.
Yeah,
like
so
major
really
spoilers.
just if you were gonna if it was an episode of a TV show and you watched it mid-season, you'd be like, this is really cool, I want to see more, and then you go back to the start, and then by the time you get there, you're not disappointed that you saw that episode, but you're actually just,
Yeah.
it's
Not
just...
sure what the title of that would be, but it's really like if you read the start of a book, it's nice to know that thing, like say there's certain characters or certain plot point or something at the beginning that you really like and you want to read about that, to see later in the book if the book actually goes in that direction or completely drops those. Like, is this the main character actually, or are they just gone forever? And like to see later, it's like, oh, they're actually involved in this stuff. Like that kind of thing it's cool and handy. So for us to do that for ourselves and then others as well, it's kind of a neat thingy.
It might be a new thing in the world of novels once we do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's cool stuff.
So now we're just going to be randomizing between all 12 of these worlds, slowly putting the content together, putting the content in an order, fleshing out those points once they're in order, and making stories out of them, and then remixing that over and over again.
Until January.
Yeah.
And then in January, we would choose a new world, so it'd be the 13th world.
Yeah.
To add.
So we got 6 months of 12 worlds, and just to do things as much as we can, and as fast as we can, and as awesome as we can, and try and get all the most awesomest stuff that we can think of for any of these stories into them, so that when I end up just spamming the words on the page and making the books, it's all goodness. Mm-hmm.
I also realized I need to watch more anime and read more fantasy stories again, because I think what helps a lot with me writing these things is when I have other things to reference.
Right. Yeah.
That then I can and then I can look at the scene we're writing on words, which I prefer visuals, but if we only have words, it's too many words if I don't have other visuals to reference that help me make sense of it, or the personality in the words. Like why does this person say this? It's like, oh, because they're like this anime character, kind of, and therefore I can kind of make sense of it.
Yeah.
So
even for us to make better use of something like reference lists and things, might be really useful. For the most part, what's funny is we don't have much of a context for a lot of stuff because we don't watch movies and all this other stuff a lot. Like,
we have gone through phases in the past.
Yeah, like a binge, and then it's like, that's it. And so often, about half the time really, we refer to our other stories when we're referring to something in the story. Yeah. It's like, this is like that thing in that other story that we're doing.
That really old story that we wrote 10 years ago, that's who we're referencing.
Yeah. The other kind of cool thing is we have barely been working on novels for very long.
Yeah.
We're still 1 month away from the 1 year reunion or 1 year anniversary of doing novels instead of treasure tales.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reformatting to turn these things into novels instead.
It is quite phenomenal the amount of content that has been produced in novel format in less than a year.
Yeah. Like everything is just transformed so much.
Yeah.
And it's pretty awesome. But it's so much learning. It really is coming together fast and really well and cool and learning so much, and we're doing things so efficiently. It's just really funny. We're trying to write 12 novels at once, and everything is all the stories themselves, like we've talked about it so many times, they're just so weird. There's that. It's almost like even if we have all the references, we have to mix and match like 5 things to make sense of like the one thing that we're trying to refer to. And it's cool adventure. Yeah. It's super fun.
One thing we will do eventually, we've talked about it before, but we haven't got to it yet, is creating the YouTube playlists on our channel where we have the tagline of the book, and then we have the blurb of the book, and then we have a character description, and then
And then we can do cooler things like talk about the worlds a little more directly. Because right now, if we refer to one like World 10, it's
What is that? Yeah. So yeah, that'll clear a lot of things up for anyone watching these right now.
And it's a fun project for us as well because it'll help us understand these things in a more concise way.
And I mean, we have been working on it, but we haven't reached the point where anything's totally finished in that regard to record a video and say this is, the official video for this.
Yeah. Bringing things to a finish.
Yeah.
That's really what this next 6 months is about, is how to set things up, bring something to a finish, and set the rest up to bring it to finish as efficiently and awesomely as possible. And then just make everything really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also going to be, likely I don't know when or how it's going to come about again, but ghostwriting a novel, and that's separate from these, but that'll definitely up my writing on my own time in terms of things. And
We're also doing D&D and stuff now too.
Dungeons and Dragons, yeah.
So much more storytelling. There's way too much storytelling going on around here. Everything is about stories. Yeah. Lots of story stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, July 1st, 2022.
In other words, Happy New Year, because every year so much happens that you have to split a year into 2 years. So it's the second year of this year. Because math.
And yeah, that's all.
Yeah.